This conference will now be recorded.
To you the fiscal year 2021 Rural Co-working and Innovation Center program. But we'd like for you to know exactly how to get to the general information that you need to know about this program. So we'll give you a quick introduction into our website and how to arrive there, business.utah.gov/rural. If you will go there, it'll bring up the Office of Rural Development webpage. As you scroll down, you will see our programs listed with each one of these bars, and you'll find the program Rural Co-working and Innovation Center Grant Program here. As you open that up, you will find links of all the information that you should need in order for you to accomplish an application. Here's a link, for example, for a one-pager, a general overview of the whole program, qualifying activities, qualifying entities, and so forth. A very short description of qualifying for the program. You'll also find a very important link here called the Information and Instructions link. And this is the overall document that you will need to have in order to accomplish your application. Again, an overview of the whole program, and it goes into the application phases, some examples about that, what you will need to be aware of, that we will review, the fact that these applications will be scored and ranked, and what you will need to do so far as application components to accomplish a good application. So remember that link, these links are in our web page, and also you will find a link to the actual application there. As we open that up, you will see there, and you will also notice that you will be able to save your progress and resume later as you go about filling this application out. We will return to the application itself and review it so that if there are any questions that might come up or misunderstandings, we can clarify those kind of things. The first thing we wanted to do here this morning was introduce you to the links that are on our webpage. At this juncture, let me give you an overview of our program. So the Rural Co-working and Innovation Center, let's stop there. Let's see if we can manage this again. Is administered through the Office of Rural Development, and it is a competitive program. This year, for fiscal year 2021, the appropriation is $250,000. As you will recall from last year, the pool or the appropriation for this program was $500,000. This year, with various budget cuts to many of our programs, this has been pared back. And as a result, the appropriation is $250,000. Last year's applications, we had 10 applications come through, 4 of which were funded. And that was against $500,000. We're grateful that this program has been funded to this level this year, rather than having been put on hold or cut altogether for this year. So we're happy to be able to deliver this program to you, even though it might be for a smaller amount. We may not be able to fund all of the requests. Nevertheless, let's give you an introduction to the program. This grant assists in the creation of facilities designed to provide individuals working within designated rural areas with the infrastructure and equipment to participate in the online workforce. The qualifying activities for this grant are construction or renovation of a facility to create a co-working and innovation center, extending and or improving utilities and broadband service connections to a co-working and innovation center, and purchasing equipment, furniture, and security systems as part of a co-working and innovation center. Counties and cities, institutes of higher education all qualify to apply for this program. Also, of course, they must be within a rural area, designated rural area. Also, private companies may apply for this program. Qualifying rural counties are Beaver, Box Elder, Carbon, Daggett, Duchesne, Emory, Garfield, Grand, Iron, Juab, Kane, Millard, Morgan, Paiute, Rich, San Juan, San Pete, Sevier, Uinta, Wasatch, and Wayne. The counties that do not qualify for this program are those along the Wasatch Front and a couple of our rural counties as well. This is per statute, was written into the law. So unfortunately, Cache, Summit, and Tooele do not qualify for this program. There are some fixed criteria connected to the Rural Co-working and Innovation Center grant, and they are these. The agreement that the applying entity will match or give a matching contribution of at least 25%. And as we go into our document, I will explain that further with some examples. But that means some type of contribution of funds in land, buildings, or an in-kind work to the amount that equals 25% of the grant. Also, this grant is not intended to be used for operation or maintenance, ongoing operation or maintenance of an existing co-working innovation center. So this grant is really about establishing new co-working and innovation centers. The application for this grant is open. It opened July 1, and it will be open until September 1 of this year. Terms for a contract under this program are for 18 months. In other words, those who will receive awards under this grant will have 18 months to perform, and that will be 18 months from the date of the application approval. Some application components that are involved here. As we go through this, we'll explain these in a little bit more detail as we go into the application itself, but you'll have your organizational information and some supporting documents that will be required. We'll expect some history and a history of qualification in order to operate a co-working innovation center. And as you tell us in your application, we would like to see what your proposal is, how that project will be executed, your budget, your timeline, and ultimately what this project will look like when it is completed. A private company, as you've seen noted here, will have some additional requirements in that we need to be able to see the solvency of a private company that we are not necessarily looking for in county, cities, and institutes of higher learning. In your application, there will be a minimum score of 75 in order to be considered there. We will review the scoring here in a few minutes, but that is a threshold that separates, a good application from one that is not complete or not thorough. There are some priorities connected to the Co-working and Innovation Center grant. This again is written into the state statute. Priority will be given to applicants who will serve underprivileged and underserved communities, including communities with high unemployment and or low median income. Priority will be given where an applicant demonstrates comprehensive planning of a project, but has limited access to financial resources, including financial resources from local and county government. And priority also given to that maximize economic development opportunities in collaboration with the economic development needs or plans of an educational institution, a county, or a municipality. In other words, even if you're a private organization, the application is going to expect you to be a collaborator with the economic development plans and needs of the community in which that co-working center will be established. As was mentioned earlier, this is a competitive grant, and this means that we have an advisory committee. This advisory committee has been duly formed. These folks are on 4-year terms, reviewing and scoring, and then collaborating to give advice to the GoEd Executive Director on awards under this grant. They are a body of 7 members, and they will meet after the September 1 application closing date and deliberate over each application, scoring them each individually, and then they will meet and compare those applications to determine awards. So best applications will win essentially that $250,000 pool of funding. I would be happy to entertain any quick questions that might have been generated to this point before we go into any other part of the presentation.
Well, we don't have any questions in the chat box, James, so your presentation is very clear.
Okay, excellent. Well, let me pull over another document, and as we do this will be the document that you will find on our website, the program document that details all of the specifics of this program. And what we want to do is just highlight some parts in this that hopefully will help you, that will help answer some questions. Generally, we get questions about that 25% match contribution. So what we've done in this program document is to spell out some examples of what does it mean to have a matching contribution. So with regard to real assets, that being land or buildings, let's just read this paragraph here quickly. Real assets that used to meet the requirement to provide an amount equal to at least 25% of the grant, as stated above, will be subject to evaluation review by means of appraisal, book value, acquisition cost verification, a county assessment, or any other form or documentation that indicates to us the value of that property, the real asset value. In the case of a contribution such as cash, we have an example. For example, if the applicant is awarded $100,000 in grant funds, the applicant will be required to contribute at least $25,000 to the project. In the event that the matching contribution is an in-kind contribution, we will want to the applicant to prove the reasonable value of labor or any fees equal to 25% of the allocated grant value. So, for example, if the applicant is awarded, again, $100,000 in grant funds, it will be required to show a reasonable in-kind labor or service costs rendered to the completion of an approved project equivalent to at least $25,000 in labor or services that have been paid out or fees that have been paid out. So hopefully that answers some question with regard to the matching contribution requirement under this grant. Other parts of this document, which are very important, and hopefully you will be able to review the whole thing and encourage you to do so as you start to fill out your application. You will see method of filling out the application. You will find the components of the application and the scoring method. So we won't scroll through this whole document. Again, I want to refer to it within our web page. You will have already received this. We did mail this out as a part of our invitation to this webinar. But again, if you don't have a copy, go to the website, pull this down. It'll be a critical document as you that you will need to be familiar with and reuse as a review as you fill out your application. You'll see in your application components points that will be awarded. Be aware of those things. Make sure that you know that these things will be scored and evaluated, and the best scores, the best proposals will be the winners in this case of that $250,000 approximately. So let's pull that away and jump into our application.
James?
Hopefully, yes.
Sorry to interrupt you, but we do have a question.
Sure,
Are there
great.
any exclusions based on industry or type of work?
No. Well, you know, these are co-working spaces, so you look at it from that point of view. But we also know that these types of facilities may also be an innovation center, such as a maker space, where you might find different type of equipment, not just desks and conference rooms. So yeah, we expect that there could be a proposal that leans towards an innovation center more so than a co-working space. But it's pretty broad. We are just encouraging here remote work opportunities in rural counties. So that's basically what we're looking for.
I have another question if I can, James.
Wonderful, great.
Hi, James. This is Representative Darren Owens at GWAB in Sanpete County. I noticed that the last document you had, but you scrolled down in collaboration with education institution like Snow College, whose service area is 6 rural counties. And so Snow College would be able to, could they apply for this and like in kind use some space as innovation maker space? Is that a partnership you would foresee happening with this?
Yes, that would be qualifying activities, and yes, essentially what we would need there with regard to the match is concerned, we would have to have some valuation of the space, if that is your in-kind contribution. There may be a combination of matching contributions, though. We just need to make sure that it's equivalent to 25%, and that we're comfortable in our finance department, we're comfortable in our compliance department, that you're meeting that 25% threshold. So if it's real property or space contribution, we would need to, you know, evaluate that, have a value on that. If it is time and volunteer time or professional contribution of time to the build out of this innovation center or your co-working space, we would need to be able to quantify it. And yes, Snow College would be a qualifying applicant.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions at this juncture that we might address before we go into the actual application?
No, I think you can proceed ahead.
Great, we will proceed then. Okay, so hopefully you see on the screen the preview of the application. Let's see if we can't make this as large as possible. And what you will do again is go to the website and pull up that link to this application. So we're going to give you a quick preview of what you will see on each page here. The front page is going to be an introduction to the program. Things we've already talked about: the general purpose, the general information, what are qualifying activities, who qualifies for the grant, what's a rural area as defined by the statute, the allocation and so forth, the priorities. So those things that we have already discussed are repeated here on that front page. And we expect that you will check that box and say, yep, I've read the information and instructions and I understand and I'd like to proceed. As you go into page 2, this is where we will ask you to identify who you are as an applicant. In this case, we give you 2 options. You're either a county, city, or institute of higher learning, or you are a private company. As we mentioned earlier, private companies are going to be required to give us more information so that we can justify the solvency, the financial position that private company is in, especially as with regard to that contribution that might be real property. We, the state, need to be secure in the idea that we are giving significant amount of money to a private company that is not going to turn around and sell it. It has to be held for a time. So that requires that a private company give us additional information. In the case that as you get to this point on page 2, you will either click the county, city, or institution of higher learning. As you do, these fields will appear. All of the general information that we need from you will be here. Certain documentation such as your W-9 will be required to be uploaded, primary contacts, secondary contacts, and those basic things. Of course, that has a point value as well, so make sure that is thorough. If you're a private company and you choose this box, then your fields will be, some of them will be the same. Of course, your address and contact information, where you are established, those kind of things, how many years you've been in business. But we will also expect other business documents to verify that you are, in fact, an existing business, that you have proper licensing, that we have proof that you are profitable, and that you are filing your taxes, and so on and so forth. So those are the 2 options under page 2, county, city, institution of higher learning, or private company. Choose the box that pertains to your entity. Page 3, we require certain supporting documents. And they're easy to follow: a list of stakeholders, who are going to be participating in this project, what will their roles be. We need letters of support. Again, this is a program that encourages the participation and cooperation of your local economy, your local government. So if you're establishing an innovation center in a city, then that city will need to also deliver a letter of support for your project, for example. Bids and quotes. This will be very important to be very, very thorough. We expect much more as we talk about delivering funding through a grant than just a moderate description. But we will actually expect to see actual quotes and bids over a proposed project. So you'll have to do some preparation, making sure that you make contact with those that might contract with you to bid or build a project. And we will expect to see those bids and quotes here. That's why we also, as as you might need to understand, the application period is for 2 full months, so that you can gather all this information. That information is verified by you and that we can see it as well. Drafts and renderings. So we'll expect some kind of architectural rendering of what you intend to do. And an agreement that you will contribute to your by 25% of your match as well, which is a box that you will select. Page 4 is going to give us some information about you, what your capabilities are in building out and establishing a co-working and innovation center, and what your qualifications might be in operating and maintaining a facility such as this. That's the one thing to build, but another thing to operate. This grant is not for operation and maintenance. It is for the building of, but we would like to also see that you are an entity that can operate it. That's going to be an important part of your score. The committee that reviews your applications will most definitely want to see what your qualifications for operating and maintaining a facility will be. What is your project design? What is the project? Tell us what your purpose is, your goals, what your benchmarks will be, where it will be, and what you intend to do with the property, and so forth. How do you make it a useful space?
James, you have a question?
Yes. Sure.
So back to the bids and quotes section. The question is, how many do they need?
Good question. I would basically suggest that you, let's go back to that page. We need as many as will support the drafts and renderings. In other words, they need to be congruent with your scope of work. What are you going to do? In other words, if you're going to, say, for example, remodel a section of a library, which is a qualifying activity, we would want to see renderings of what that will look like. And then we will want to see bids and quotes on the build out of those things. So it's not a quantity. In other words, we need to see 2 or 3 bids. We just need to see bids that are, reasonably explained to us and that are congruent with the drafts and renderings that you will also propose. Hopefully that is helpful. Further questions, we'll come back to them. Again, back to page 4, your design is a description of what this project's going to be, where, and so forth. Your scope of work is going to be about how you are going to execute this. You're going to tell us exactly what you're going to do to achieve the grand opening of a co-working and innovation center. What are your deliverables? Ultimately, this is a synopsis or a summary based on your project proposal, your scope of work, your budget, and your timeline of what this center is going to look like upon completion, what it will be. So in each one of these spaces, you have 1,000 words to give us a description. These descriptions will be read by those who are reviewing this application, and they'll be compared against somebody else's application as well, so that you understand that you want to be thorough here, succinct, but also thorough to make sure that your application is clear, and but also recognizing that it'll be competing against somebody else's application. Page 5 is going to require a continued narrative on 2 subjects, budget and timeline. Shorter narrative, 300-word maximum is what you have here. We will expect that you give us a short narrative about your funding requirements and how your budget will reflect the design and the scope of work and the deliverables. And you will want to make an explanation of your 25% matching contribution here in this space, what it is, and then As you get to the bottom here, you will have a field in which you will upload a document, and we will want to see a supporting document here in a spreadsheet form of your budget that matches your narrative, so that we can see not only a verbal description, but we also see a spreadsheet that we can see a calculation against. Your 25% match also will be part of this Excel spreadsheet format budget. Timeline, again, a short narrative. What are you going to do over time? What benchmarks will you achieve? When do you intend to start? When do you intend to complete these your goals and your ultimately your project? 200 words here, short narrative. Again, though, we will request that you give us a spreadsheet of your timeline. The final page of the application, page 6, is basically your request. So now that we have some history with this application, we know some tendencies, a few tendencies. And some of those tendencies are, for those who are aggressive, to go after the full funding amount. We had at least 3, if not 4, applications last year that requested the full $500,000 budget. None of them were awarded the full amount, obviously, because we awarded 4 at various levels. So our hope here is that while you may have quite a project, that you will also be realistic in your request. So we're going to take a look at your budget, and hopefully that budget matches your request. In other words, if you actually have a $50,000 project, that you will ask for $50,000. If you have a $100,000 project, that you'll ask for $100,000, and so forth. So also be aware that because we have a limited pool, $250,000, we expect multiple applications, and we expect to have multiple good applications, that there may be, after review, that an applicant is asked to take a different level of funding than what they request. That occurred this past year across the board. We had $500,000, and in most every case of the award, each one of them was invited to take a different level than what they requested and adjust their budgets in order so that we could spread the pool of funds out further. As opposed to giving one award of $500,000, the intention for this program is to establish these co-working and innovation centers across the rural state. So in other words, we want to spread the opportunity as well, not just give the funding to one entity. But if we can give the funding to multiple entities and they can still achieve what their goals are, that's what would be preferred here. Now, that's not to say that one organization might put together an excellent application that would require the build out to the level of the full amount. Now, if that's the case, then you are welcome to do that and offer an application with the your requested funding for the full amount of this year's allocation. Take that for its value, but also please be aware that the goal for the state is to open co-working and innovation centers across rural areas of the whole state. So you will acknowledge that here, and as you acknowledge that with your button, you can also push the submit button, and your application will be submitted, received, and after September 1, they will be reviewed by the committee. We expect that if it holds the course as we were able to do last year, we expect that all the reviews of applications will be completed by mid-September. In other words, closing September 1, mid-September, they would all be reviewed and scored. The Working Hub Committee will be pulled together for ultimate final review, probably somewhere around the 15th or 16th of September. They will deliberate over the awards, and those who are awarded will likely know of their award by October 1. Nan, how about some questions?
Let's check the chat box and see if we've got anything new. Not any new questions.
Great. If there are no new questions, we'll just remind you again to make sure that you go and follow through with business.utah.gov/rural to find our website. Scroll down to the tab that introduces the program, Rural Co-working and Innovation Center Grant Program. Open that up and you will find the links that you need, including the application and information and instruction document to complete the application. This link up here that says RCIC webinar link will be renewed. What you see here is last year's webinar. We will change that out this week so that you can review this one that we are presenting right now. And that will be in that place. But thank you all very much. We appreciate your attendance today.
We do have a question.
Oh, very good.
Can you provide any resources for helping us set up a co-working space?
Yes, there is a, we have done, and let me give you a quick explanation. Last year, we discovered that as we awarded these, that there may be a need for professional help in establishing a place with all of the bells and whistles. In other words, you know, lock and key, security systems, and operation software and so forth. So what we did earlier in this year, with the help of Rebecca Dilge, is to contact the procurement office of the state, and 2 companies have been vetted and are now state vendors. So you have 2 options to choose from, but you also may seek out any other company that may help you establish those things. So we won't give you those references to the names of those companies. You will have to contact their procurement office. And what we will do is provide a link here again on our website to that procurement office so that you can make a call to them and determine whether these state approved companies may be of service to you.
Thank you. So last call for questions, folks. Well, I don't see any other questions coming through on the chat box. With that, James, do you have any final remarks?
Please give us a call if you have any questions. You can call me directly, 801-538-8687. I will be managing the program, managing the review board, managing the applications. So as questions arrive, you're welcome to call me directly.
Great. Thank you so much, James. Excellent information. And thanks to all of you for participating in our webinar this morning. Again, we'll be posting this, and as James stated, This new recording will be replaced, will replace the previous recording link. Thank you all and have a great rest of your day.